All right, guys, welcome to React and Chill. Here, I have a guest, David L Tamarin. Now, I'm pretty bad with names, but did I get that one right?
Yes, absolutely. That's
Okay,
correct.
that's good. That's good because back in the old show, I could never get it right, and that was part of the joke. It was just a running gag of, can this guy even pronounce any of these names? Like, what's happening here? Is he the product of the George Bush No Child Left Behind act? Yeah, yeah, I probably am. Okay, I'm just a goofball. I present myself like that because I am at times, and I don't have a problem with that. I just like to be honest. Okay, and but here we are. We're going to talk a little bit. From what I understand, David L. Tamarin is an extreme horror author. He has several books out there. And we're going to talk to him and see pick his brain as to what his fascination is with horror and the things related, like crime, true crime, serial killers. Also, it is a reaction channel. Going to see how he reacts to certain things and what he thinks about it. I say quite a bit in my reactions, what would a random person think of the stuff that we like here on this channel? Well, and I told him, be honest. Okay, he may not like the stuff I play, and that's fine. Okay. Hey, be honest, brother. Okay? All right, David?
Okay.
All right, here we go. First off, David, now I introduced you a little bit, but very briefly. So what is it that you do in more detail?
I write horror. My main job, which I kind of retired from about 2 years ago, was as an attorney. I worked in Social Security disability law, and then in entertainment law, and I worked on a bunch of films. Um, and then I submitted my first story back in 2003, and I've been writing since then, but mostly short stories. And then just recently, in the past couple of years, I decided to start writing books. So I have four like paperback books out now, and then I have a couple more that are on just in ebook format.
Okay. Oh, so how did you go from a lawyer for disability law to, well, to a horror?
Um, well, I mean, I don't know why I became a lawyer. It was kind of not the best decision, and I did not enjoy doing it. And the whole time I was doing it, I was writing on the side, and then finally, I just had enough, um, and I stopped doing it, and now I'm writing. I've always had a love for writing, but I'm also um, I'm a compassionate person. So when I practice law, I try to do things that are of benefit to people. So I like to help people out, and then I also like to scare them, write scary stuff.
I like that. You like to help people out, which, I mean, you would have to be a very kind and compassionate person to do disability law of all laws, right? But you also like to scare
Yeah.
them too. That's like a very interesting duality there. You see that? Yeah. Very nice. Okay. And wow, disability law. Well, I
Yeah,
know.
especially
Go ahead.
I, I specialize in like children with disabilities.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah.
So you probably, wow. Wow. And we're not really here for this one, but man, that you must have heard some stories for sure.
Yeah, I've heard some awful things, and the problem is just not the children, but the adults. You know, like maybe like 90-95% have like a substance abuse problem, and it's usually arising from whatever their disability is.
Yeah.
So it's tough. Yeah.
Oh, man. Well, and so you didn't really, but you had you must have had a passion for that for a little bit because you got into it. But what I understand, you didn't really like it. You wanted to write. Horror was what I hear was your passion, and you kind of went from there. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. I've always loved horror just from a very young age. The first horror, like adult horror book I read was Christine by Stephen King,
Yeah,
and
that's a good one.
I was in like fourth grade. And it just blew me away and like changed my life. And I knew that I loved horror and that I loved reading, and I loved it. It sparked also me an interest in writing as well. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, hey, that's a good way to get into it. You read the books, you like what you read, and it sounds like you're fascinated by that. It's like, I want to try to do that, you know? And let me ask
yeah.
you, especially with your background of work, was there a little bit of a catharsis in that? Was it like kind of a way to kind of dump all maybe some sort of emotions that you felt from what you did professionally?
Yeah, definitely. And then the thing I'm writing now, um, is also it's called Rotten Valley High, and it's kind of personal. Actually, it takes place in high school, and there's bullying, um, and there's a serial killer on the loose, um, and it's a lot of stuff going on, and it ends in a disastrous shooting.
Oh, okay.
Um, and so I've been working on the book actually for a couple of years. I started it 4 years ago, and then I was writing for a publisher, and the publisher went out of business. So I got kind of frustrated, and I put it aside for 2 years, and then I just recently picked it up again, and it's got a lot of problems. It's very like inconsistent. Like I wrote one thing at one time, and then I forgot about it and wrote something that contradicts that, and so it's a big mess right now. So I'm just trying to fix it before I can finish it.
Hey, but it's good that you do,
Yeah,
oh man, there is something to that, right? You work on something, while you're working on it, you think everything makes sense, but you set it down for a little bit, you go back to it, and you find out, oh wait, this doesn't make a whole lot of sense. What was I thinking
yeah.
here? You know, uh, yeah. All right, that's very cool. I mean, that happens. Um, Now we got what got you into horror, like reading Stephen King and all that. But what is it that fascinates you about horror?
Um, that's a good question because I'm the thing that fascinates me most is like abnormal psychology and like the mindsets of people who are either psychopathic or psychotic. And I've always been interested in that. And then in horror films and in horror literature, that's explored. People who are there's people who are serial killers, or people who are schizophrenics, um, people who are hardcore drug addicts, um, and I find that fascinating. I like to try to get into that mindset. I don't I see cruelty in the world, and I don't understand a lot of it of how a person could do something to another person. Like if someone is like a serial kidnapper, and, he tortures his victims and stuff. And I've never been able to really understand how you could do that to someone. But I've been fascinated by it, so I try in my writing to get into their minds and see why they're that evil and that bad.
Oh, that is very interesting. I like that. So uh, it sounds like you're drawn to these serial killers because it's like, how can they do what it is they do? But you
Yeah,
you
exactly.
also you write out what they do, kind of. So in that process, I get it. You're exploring like what their mindset could possibly be.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, and by doing that, what have you found? What have you learned?
uh, I mean, I believe in monsters are human. That I mean, there's real evil out there and real insanity out there, and that's why I've written a lot of short stories, but I generally don't write like paranormal stuff. I write about like psychological horror, mainly people who are psychopathic or psychotic,
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Because the real monsters, like you said, are us humans.
yeah. And it's I've read stuff that's just terrifying, and it just blows my mind. There's this book, Killer Fiction, and it was written by this police officer who was also a serial killer, and he killed like 20 young women. And in his book, he just writes about what he does to them, and like in detail, and he's like having a good time talking about it. And the book was actually used in the trial against him, and he was sent to jail for life. And it was partly because of the book. But I read that, and that book was it just so intense. I had made me like sick to read it, but that book allowed me to sort of really get into really see how someone like that thinks, and it was a very disturbing experience.
Imagine so. Like, especially what made it more appalling? Like the details in the book, or the fact that he was able to like read it and be kind of like, I guess, jolly about it. Is that the right way to frame it? Or he just seemed like,
Yeah, he is jolly about it. He
wow,
loves what he does, and he loves to describe how when he strangles women, like they shit themselves, and he writes about that a lot, and he's fascinated with that, and with strangling and everything, and it was really hard for me to read that book. I mean, it was read it a long time ago, and I still can't forget it.
yeah. Huh. I haven't read it, but it sounds really good. Um, I drive a lot for my job, so any reading I do would probably be like audiobook or something. I
Yeah,
take it that there's probably a recording of him reading it. So, like, if I were to listen to that, it would be pretty disturbing. I would imagine,
yeah. No
knowing
matter
these
who's
details.
reading it, it would be disturbing. Yeah,
Okay, all right. And on the subject of serial killers, man, that is a big topic there. That is a huge one.
yeah,
Um, and the thing about that is too is that like there's like there are people that walk among us. Like it's not like they stand out in any
yeah.
particular. Well, they might be a little quirky, or sometimes they look very normal, quote normal, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, women thought Ted Bundy was, very handsome.
Well, yeah, he had to be to get his victims. He had to be a little bit of a charmer, didn't he? Well,
Yeah,
a little bit of a Casanova. Well,
yeah. I guess part of the reason got interested in serial killers just having to do with how old I am. I was born in 1972, so I started becoming, interested in uh, social studies type stuff. When I was 7 or 8, around 1980, and that was sort of like the golden era of serial killers, and there was Ted Bundy and John Wayne Gacy and the Night Stalker and Jeffrey Dahmer, and they were just all over the news. And I remember the John Wayne Gacy case, and everyone was whispering these rumors about like a naked clown stalking our town, and he's trying to sell ice cream to kids and stuff. And it wasn't real, but we were like terrified.
yeah,
And I was very young when this was going on, and so I grew up in an era where um, serial killers really made the news a lot,
yeah,
and they
you're
were big.
right. They really did back then, didn't they? Like you'd hear
Yeah,
about them more often then, I would imagine, because I don't really hear about serial killers that often now. Um, but man, wow. What are some that like really got your attention, and you really wanted to kind of do a deep dive into what they did?
um, Jeffrey Dahmer, just because what he did was is so crazy. And I recently actually got to see it was 24 seconds of footage of what was inside his house, and when they arrested him, and he had this like bookshelf, and he had just like normal stuff on it, and there was 2 severed heads on it, and then he had these bodies where the heads and like arms had been cut off, and they were posed in these weird positions, and um, I mean, that guy was weird, and I'll never forget seeing them take the remains of the bodies out in those big barrels,
Yeah.
and that made a huge impression. So, probably Jeffrey Dahmer more than anyone, and then I also was very interested in John Wayne Gacy. Um, I just thought that was really twisted that he was a clown, um, and that he just threw the bodies in his basement, and that's how he got caught. Um, and he was very sadistic killer, and that's something also that interests me. I'm interested, I guess, in like dark subjects, and people who are sadistic are interesting to me.
Yeah.
Um, and he was extremely sadistic. I mean, he really tortured people before he killed them. So I was interested in him also.
Now, on this topic of serial killers, it's a very dark subject, and it kind of goes in line with you being an extreme horror author, not just an author of horror, but extreme. For a little bit, kind of give us an idea of how extreme your work can be, and I'll put it on the screen too while you do that.
I guess I have a scene in a book where a man is with a pregnant woman, and he rips out half the baby and uses it as a crack pipe. And while he's smoking,
hold on. I just want to make sure what I heard. That the serial killer does what to the baby?
he uses it as a crack pipe.
The baby.
He sticks like a metal piece into it, and then he puts the crack on its head, and he lights the crack, and it just goes through its head the way you would like smoke pot through an apple, basically.
Holy, wow! Well, I asked, and you definitely delivered, sir. I asked, and you delivered. Maybe for the listeners, maybe I should have started with give us the kiddie pool version, and then let's get in there. You know what I'm saying? But I like that. That is shocking, and I will remember that. That's like that is good. I like that. All right.
There's more to that than the.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. We're just getting started. Okay, so he's using the baby as a crack pipe. Okay.
It implodes, and he inhales the whole thing and chokes on it.
Wow. Okay. that is a gnarly story. That's just like one scene of it, right?
Yeah, that's from my book, Hurting My Toys.
And
the whole book.
Like that. And that was a short story too, right? Or
yeah, started out as a short story, like from like 2005, and then some people told me I shouldn't publish it. That it was like evil, and I was putting evil out into the world, and I shouldn't be writing, and that got me kind of down for a while, and I stopped writing, and then I said, fuck it, and I contacted a publisher who had shown interest in me before, and I said, if I turn this short story into a novel or a novella, would you publish it? And they said yes, and this was about like 12 years ago, and but they only published it in electronic format. So last year I decided I'm not interested in having a publisher, and I want to do things myself. So I got I put it out as a physical book.
Okay.
And it's also still available as an ebook.
Okay. On this topic, and oh, by the way, I'm glad they published it. And there might be some who disagree. I like how graphic it is. I like how bold it is, because just you describing it, it got my full attention. If I read that, I would have been like, whoa, wait, hold on here. This is wild. This is some wild stuff. this is that gets your attention, man. Or the shock of it. And dude, that's just one little element of that story. That's like man, is that the most extreme element in that particular story? I'm sure it's not.
This one scene that I find more disgusting. It's the same scene, and there's a woman hostage in the background, and he's trying to make her watch, and she keeps closing her eyes, and he says, if you don't watch, I'm gonna sew your eyes open. And she won't watch, so he tries to sew her eyes open, but he's been sewing crack, so his hands are all shaky and everything, and he keeps poking the needle into her eyeball.
Ow. Oh man.
So I just personally, I have this huge eyeball phobia. Like, I'm terrified.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And so that freaked me out, even that scene.
Holy crap. That is a gnarly scene too, man. Oh yeah, needles and eyes, man. Oh man, that is a graphic scene. It definitely gets your attention. Oh, that reminds me of the name is escaping me right now. There's this Japanese movie, The Audition. I think it's called The Audition. I don't know if you ever seen it. Have you seen it?
Yeah, Audition. Yeah, I love that film.
Oh yeah. So yeah, in that movie, there's a scene where there's needles in the eye, and that scene got me. That scene got me more than the other gross stuff that was in that movie. Which there's a lot of gross stuff in that movie, but that one particular scene, especially the way she's doing it, as the
that was yeah that's the director, that Takeshi Miike. He's made over 100 films, and he's made some of the most outrageously violent films I've ever seen. He made one called Ichi the Killer, which I recommend to everyone.
Yeah. So now this is React and Chill. We've been chilling, talking about this. Hey, we've been chilling, talking about serial killers and very extreme horror elements. Now, the thing to react to, I figured, would be a song called Dust to Dust by this band called The Warning. I will just play it and see what you think of it, okay? Is the screen sharing still working for you?
Yes, it is. I can see it.
And guys, hopefully we took care of all the technical issues before all this. I'll press play and see what you think, okay?
Okay.
Here we go.
start again. Dust to dust, our bones will rust, and we shall start again. Ciudad Mexico! Dust to dust, our bones will rust, and we shall start again. Dust to dust, our bones will rust, and we shall start again. Hey, where are you going? Don't trust all that you hear, and there's no use in running. It's better to stay
All right. All right. So that was The Warning. The song is Dust to Dust. And that's the first. Have you heard this band before?
No.
No. So you're brand new to this. Okay. So I can tell you a little bit about them. They're a rock band from Mexico. They're all sisters. They started when they were like in their teens. Like really, like they were like very young when they started, okay? And so the reason why I chose this song is because it's off of an album called Queen of the Murder Scene. And the whole album is a concept album about a psycho stalker who stalks a victim and, well, because she falls in love. Oh, man, I revealed that part. Man, I was going to be like, guess who it was? But she falls in love, like, in a way that's unhealthy, very much unhealthy, right? And a lot of bad things happen. So this is your first time hearing this. What did you think of it?
I definitely like that. I mean, that's my type of music. I like a lot of types of music, but I mean, they're a good hard rock, heavy metal band with like a good beat and a good sound. And at first I didn't like the lead singer's voice, but then it grew on me. And that's cool that they're all sisters and they started when they were young. But yeah, I definitely like that they rocked it out pretty hard.
Now, when you say the lead singer, do you mean like the drummer singer or the one who's in the one in the front?
Yeah, the one in the front.
Okay, yeah. So I often joke anymore because I react to this band quite a bit. I'm very familiar with them. Anymore, I kind of say that the drummer, who also sings, as you could tell, is kind of, she sings in a way in a lot of songs where she kind of presents herself like she might as well be the front person, because she's very animated behind the drum kit, and she has they're very expressive, especially her. And I'm like, man, it's like she could drum and sing at the same time, and she does it in a way that's like very powerful. But okay, all right, yeah. So it sounds like you kind of like.
And I like what?
Oh, any other thoughts about it?
That's cool that I like that it's a concept album, and what it's about and everything.
All right, man. Cool. So, also on the subject of serial killers and related to this song, and this one I'm not too familiar with. Are there female serial killers that took things too far?
Yes, there's definitely female serial killers. I read a lot. I have a couple books just on female serial killers. The way they murder tends to be different. Um, Men tend to use more like overtly violent ways, like clubbing someone to death or hitting them with a hammer. Women who are serial killers tend to use poison, and the big exception was Aileen Wuornos, who had a lot of publicity because she was put to death, and she's one of the, I don't know any other woman who's been put to death. There have been others. Her case was big, and they made that movie Monster out of it with yeah. So there are female serial killers. She's kind of the exception because she was shooting people. But there's a lot of female serial killers who go through like a bunch of husbands, and the husbands will die of like mysterious causes.
Yeah.
And then in the healthcare industry, who are nurses, and they're called angel of death nurses, and they kill their patients.
Now, do you know any that will like stalk their victim kind of because they're in love, and will like try to like trap them and bound them in rope and do that sort of thing?
Yeah, I mean, they people have specific types, and they'll hunt after someone who's their type for
Yeah.
as long as it takes. They're these people are very calculated and very dedicated to what they want to do.
Yeah. No, as a also another question about serial killers is like the thing that's fascinating for me about it. Like I mentioned that earlier, is that they can look normal, like they have that facade that they're they don't look like they're gonna hurt you. They just look friendly in a way, maybe, right? They look polite sometimes.
Yeah, I knew someone who I know he murdered at least one person because I was um, his younger brother told me, and he wasn't like bragging about it. He was like really upset and he was crying and stuff. And he said he saw the whole thing. And this person, I'm sure, has like killed other people. And I mean, he just gave me the chills. He's the most completely psychopathic person I've ever met in my life. And just as an example, he was literally my next door neighbor.
Whoa,
He
whoa, whoa,
wanted to
whoa,
do some.
whoa! Make sure I'm hearing this right. Your next door neighbor was someone that killed someone.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I don't. Maybe his younger brother was. I don't know. Well, his brother might have been lying or whatever, but he was upset when he told me, um, and I could see in this person that he was evil and that he'd be capable of doing that. And just as an example, we hired him to fix our front porch, and he did this like terrible job, and he charged us like 3 times too much. Um, and he would just like walk into our house sometimes. Um, and I'm so happy that we moved. We moved uh, 7 years ago.
Yeah.
I haven't seen him since. I don't know where he's up to. I know he was in. Um, he's spent a lot of time in prison, so I'm assuming that's where he is. Um, but yeah, he was. But he was on the surface. He was an attractive guy. Like women like really. He was like a magnet. Like he always had a girlfriend and a different one. Um, and they did exactly what he said, and he was very outwardly like charming and stuff. But
Yeah.
I could just sense about him that he just scared me. I don't know why,
Hey.
but he just scared
Oh.
me.
So he presented himself as a nice guy. Might have had kind eyes. I don't know, but deep down there was something really wrong with him. He was hunting, you know.
Yeah.
So as far as like, and then that is a crazy story that you knew someone like that, like firsthand. Well, someone told you about that, and he like lived next to you. That's, man. I'm glad you moved. I mean, I don't know if you were his type, but I mean, he could have been looking at you.
Yeah, I mean, he was in jail for a lot of the time that I was living there, so that took care of that. But for a lot of the time, he was also out of jail. So I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Now there's some that are like pretty famous for being very, I guess, normal-ish, having like a facade of having a family and kids, right? Like
Like
BTK,
the BTK,
right? Yeah, BTK. Yeah,
like he was active in church and stuff like that, and he had a family guy.
just a family man. You could trust him. He even sold you home alarms, right? Home security.
Yeah.
Hey, can I interest you in some home security? Be like, no, thank you, sir. Nope. No. Oh man. Wow. That is some crazy stuff. That's some gnarly
Yeah.
stuff. Now, Is there one that really like surprised you, like how far they went? Like the one that like you're like, man, like this guy, I don't understand. Like I know it's like it's hard to wrap your mind like how they do the things that they do, why they do it, you know? But like, was there one that like was too much for you, even?
Yeah, definitely more than one. Um, just first person who comes to mind is Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker.
Yeah.
Um, he would rape his victims in addition to killing them, and he had no preference at all. He raped men and women. His youngest victim was like 7, and his oldest victim was in her 90s. He just didn't care. And that's just, I mean, he would just go into a house with the intention of just raping everyone inside and then, killing them and like brutally killing them, poking their eyes out and stuff. So that, I always thought he was a scary guy.
Yeah, to say the least, a scary guy. And that's one I did not really follow much. I think there's a whole series on him now on Netflix and whatever. But like, from what you learned from him about him, Ramirez, what was his motive behind all that?
Um,
That you know of?
he was crazy, but he also had a very traumatic upbringing. He was close to his uncle who fought in the Vietnam War, and the uncle was crazy and tortured people and stuff in the Vietnam War and took pictures of it and showed it off to Richard Ramirez when he was just like 7 or 8 years old. And then this uncle that he liked so much shot Richard Ramirez's mother right in front of Richard Ramirez, um, and he continued to be friends with this terrible influence who was his cousin who shot his own mother in front of him.
Yeah.
So that was a big part of it. And then he got into drugs when he was very young, and he was shooting cocaine. He started with pot, and then he was shooting cocaine.
Shooting it, not just snorting, but shooting it. Okay.
Yeah, shooting it, and he actually the reason he quit cocaine, it's the funniest reason, but he thought that if he did cocaine and he went killing, that the cocaine would like he wouldn't be on his game and it would mess him up, and he was more interested in killing than in doing cocaine. So he decided to quit cocaine so he could be a better, more effective killer and not get caught.
Don't do drugs on the job. Ah, that's messed up. That was messed up. That might be the worst thing I've said here. Okay. That's wow. So it's very traumatic childhood, very traumatic to say the least. And I don't, a lot of people say they have a rough childhood. That dude, I think that dude takes the cake for having the worst, probably.
Yeah, I mean, to see, I forget if it was his mother or his aunt, but to see her just shot dead in front of him.
Yeah.
And being exposed to these stories about the Vietnam War and seeing pictures of dead bodies and stuff. And he was very close with this uncle of his.
So, and you take that and you compare it to someone like BTK, who, from what I understand, didn't really seem to have a traumatic childhood, right?
Yeah, no, not that I know of. No.
Oh, how does that? Like, what do you think of that? Like, how would you write that as a story to make it convincing?
I probably couldn't. I don't understand him. I mean, he's really a puzzle to me. I just, it's just so bizarre that he was this well-respected guy and everything, and that he was committing the most like a horrible torture murders, and not because he was abused as a child or anything like that. And he had a family. He was apparently good to his family, and he didn't go after his family. So yeah, I mean that's just a whole weird dynamic. I don't know how.
Yeah.
I guess I think some people are just like born evil and with like an urge to kill people.
Just pure
And
evil.
I think that was the case.
He wanted to hurt people, not his own family, but other people. So So there was that he was able to distinguish from his targets. He was like, okay. He must have seen.
Yeah.
He must have saw everyone else that wasn't his family as like subhuman, or something.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when I say evil, that's what I mean. Is seeing people as less than as human beings, and therefore it's okay to harm them.
Yeah. Ooh, that would be hard to write, hard to make convincing too. Because you write that in a story, be like, wait, his background was what? He had a childhood. He went to school, and like there wasn't really anything traumatic. It's like he's just that's it. It's just pure evil. I think there is a book like that. It's called American Psycho, where he's just
Great book.
He's just psychotic. He's like really is just in the inside completely empty, not really much of anything. Wow.
I love that book. Yeah, and that's exactly right. Just on the inside, there's just nothing there.
All right. Now I have one more reaction for you. Okay. And then after this reaction, we'll get into more of your book here, the book that hates you. This book hates you. This song I chose just now. Actually, I was going to play something else, but on the subject of, I guess serial killers. This song is called MDO. The band is called Lovebites.
Okay.
MDO means, I believe it stands for most destructive outset. And the lyrics, well, I don't know. I'll play it, and I'll see what you think of it. Okay. All right.
Okay.
Let me go ahead and put it on. You can see it. We're sharing the screen here. Let me go and put it on the screen here, and then let's give it a go. Brace yourself. It is pretty heavy.
Good.
Oh yeah, it is live. Hold on. All right. All right.
Wow.
That was Lovebites MDO. All right, Brian. Brian. Oh my God. I fried my brain on that one. It was so heavy. I fried my brain on that one. David L Tamarin. What do you think of that?
That was amazing. I mean, they put on, they definitely put on a show. I would love to be there. I'd love to see them live. That would be amazing. They got really hard during parts. That was intense. That was a really good song. I like that better than the first one.
Oh, you liked it more than the first one? Okay. Hey.
Yeah.
And hey, just be honest, man. And I understand that. Yeah, Lovebites MDO. So you recognize it was harder, it's heavier for you.
Yeah.
What are some things you really liked about it? Some other things.
There was just moments where it just got real hard and thrashed out, and they're very theatrical, and you could tell that they put on a really good show. Coordinating with each other and things like that. So that was the main thing I noticed, and just I enjoy the singer's voice also.
Hey, that's cool. Yeah,
but musically they're amazing. I mean, it was amazing.
Okay. And it sounds like you know of some thrash bands too.
Yeah, I haven't been to a concert in a long time, but the last concert I went to was Slayer.
So, okay. They actually have some songs that are very reminiscent of Slayer.
Nice.
Could you pick any sort of references or anything from this song? Any other thrash bands?
No, but they had that familiar thrash sound. I can't think of a particular band they sound.
Okay. Yeah, they're a band from Japan. They're still active. They're very active. What you saw there was their current lineup. Been pretty much consistent. The only change was the basses. The band started, actually was founded by the bassist and the drummer. And during that time, they toured Europe. They went that far. They never really had a chance to go to the States. Around that time when they were going to, it sounded like COVID happened, and that shut everything down. The whole world went locked down, right? And during that time, shortly after, they had a change up in the lineup. The bassist left, and it's her choice, and she's doing okay. She's doing okay now. The Lovebites fans, we call ourselves the Wolf Pack. We follow up on her every now and then to see what she's doing because she's a good bassist, and she has like probably the best headbang in the business. The one you saw here, her name's Fami, and she's very popular on YouTube. She has a YouTube channel where she pretty much plays all sorts of different bass techniques, like usually slap. She does a lot of covers. Very fun, very animated, and yeah. But they went to the States. They went to the U.S. last year.
Nice.
For the first time. Yeah.
I remember when I was younger, I was a skateboarder, and I read Thrasher magazine, and they reviewed and they had ordering information for all these foreign punk rock bands. And I remember there's a lot of Japanese bands that I listened to, like Japanese hardcore punk rock bands. I mean, this is decades ago, but I always liked that.
And see, I never read that magazine, but yeah, that sounds cool. I kind of wish I did. I got into the thrash stuff kind of like kind of later. I was like in high school, and my entryway was like Metallica, but like I think by the time I listened to it, it was Black Album, and then I went backwards, and then I went to like Master Puppets, and then Ride the Lightning, and then Kill Them All, which is actually one of my favorite Metallica albums. Okay, it just okay.
Yeah, it's great. Ride the Lightning is probably my favorite one.
Oh yeah, that's a good one too. But the reason why I play this is because the lyrics are kind of interesting for this. Okay, so it's called MDO, Most Destructive Outset, and like the lyrics, I don't know if you really followed what she was saying. Sometimes it's kind of hard to at times, but she says like, after came the permanent disaster, a tragic neurological disorder, turning me into a crazy monster, inverting what I see to be imposters. Never have I seen this, said the doctor, observing my condition, and I wonder beauty's in the eye of the beholder, but maybe it's because of my disorder. And then it goes on from there. So as we were talking, I was like, and like I said, I didn't plan on showing this one. I was going to show you Baby Metal for your first time. Okay. I was like, no, let's do Love Bites. Let's do MDO, because this topic of serial killers and extreme horror, there's a weird element in this song that's kind of like on the surface, like you don't really get it because the way she sings it, it kind of seems like you tell me if I'm wrong, if you read it differently. And in this song, it kind of seems it's very fun. Right? It seems like a very fun song.
Yeah, it's upbeat and it's catchy for like a hard song.
Yeah, indeed. So would you expect it to have some sort of like message about going to see your doctor because you might be having a mental disorder and might be seeing people as imposters, that sort of thing?
Those are weird lyrics.
Very interesting, right? And most of their lyrics are in English. Actually, all of them except for one song, but they redid that one in English too. So anyway, that's your first exposure to Love Bites. So if you're ever curious, this channel has a lot of it. Okay. Now,
cool.
Now we're also here to talk about your book here, which is this book, Hates You 2.0. So we talked about this briefly, one story. Give me your elevator pitch for this book.
It's got 30 stories. It ranges from flash fiction to I guess you'd say novella length works. I just actually I could describe it better with a story. There's a story in the book called Snuff Movie Review, and I wrote it in 2007, and that was back before Facebook when people were on LiveJournal. Okay. And what I did was wrote a fake review of a snuff movie, of like a non-existent snuff movie, but I wrote it like it was a real movie review, and I put it up on LiveJournal, and all these people started contacting me, asking me where to get a snuff movie. And so I had to post and say, this is a work of fiction. I do not know where to get a snuff movie, and if I did, I wouldn't help you get one.
Would it distribute it? No.
And then it happened again. I put it on another social media thing, and people thought it was real, and crazy people were asking me where to get snuff movies and stuff. So that's my story for that. And then as I said, it's got the short story Hurting My Toys, which is the one that became my first novel.
That's wild, man. So it's a review of a snuff film that doesn't exist, but was it presented as a nonfiction piece at first?
Yes. Yes. I write horror, but I write experimental fiction. I'm influenced by this writer, J.G. Ballard, who wrote Crash and a lot of other great books. But he sort of, when I read him, I learned a lot from him, because he redefines what a story is. And a lot of his stories were just very extremely unconventional. And that was definitely influenced by him. So yeah, I wrote it up like it was like a legitimate review. I talked about the lighting and stuff like that.
And people read that, and some of these people were like, "Hey, man, we're gonna get this film. This film sounds wild." It's like, yeah. Oh man, that kind of shows you how easily people can be I guess duped on that, right? You kind of published fake news there, didn't you? In a way.
Yes.
But it kind of showed you a little bit about, I guess, did you ever have any thoughts about the people who were asking you, hey, man, where can I get this film you're talking about?
Yeah, I pulled the story off of LiveJournal.
Yeah.
And I answered people. I just said that I'm very, very sorry to let you down, but this is fiction. I don't know where to get snuff movies. Sorry.
No. Yeah.
And then I ended my membership in LiveJournal because of that.
Okay. And LiveJournal, man, that's something I haven't heard of in a good while. Is that thing even around anymore?
I don't know if they still have it, but this was back in like 25 years ago, probably.
And we're talking 30 stories. And that one's wild. The review of the snuff film, the fake snuff film that does not exist. And we got a little bit of counting what contains hurting my toys. Give me a little brief synopsis of another story.
Well, probably my favorite story in the book is called "What Happens in the Attic," and it's about PTSD. And the main character is this young kid, and he lives with his parents, or he lives with his father and his grandfather. His grandfather was a Vietnam vet, and he has PTSD.
Okay.
And the way that he deals with his PTSD is he has his son go out and kill people, and then he takes their souls and puts them in dolls, like little soldier dolls.
Okay.
And then he these atrocities that he had been in the Vietnam War that had caused him to have PTSD. So he'd make the little soldiers, like, rape and kill each other and torture each other. Yeah, that's the story. He reanimates the dead bodies. He reanimates their souls into little war dolls, and then he recreates battles.
Now, I might be asking a little too much here by maybe revealing a little too much in the story, but is he really putting the souls in the bodies, or does he think he's putting the souls in the bodies?
He is. That's one of the supernatural stories in the book. There's not that many, but that one is.
Okay, so he's not only just a Vietnam vet with some PTSD. He's a practicer of, like, I don't know, like voodoo or witchcraft or something. Okay.
Like witchcraft type thing.
Yeah. Okay. That's a wild story. I can imagine that, like a dude with PTSD, like playing with his dolls in the attic, but the dolls are like reanimated. They're Oh my God. So I guess don't ask about what's in the attic then.
That's yeah. That's
right. So I take it when you go to anyone's house, you never ask what's in their attic, huh? No. Let's not explore that. That's up there for a reason. It's not just Christmas decorations. Oh no. So, like, there might be someone in the comments section might be asking, who'll probably ask me later, hey, how did this David Tamarin guy come up with these ideas? Like, is his mind in a dark place and stuff like that? There's always someone who asks that. And so yeah. What do you say to that?
I'm a very morbid person. I'm very interested in not just like violence and mayhem, but anything that's just like weird or unusual. I mean, I used to be very interested in UFOs, just for example. But I just anything that's like weird or whatever. I've always been interested in that. I can't say why. I just and I do a lot of non like creative nonfiction writing. I wrote for a magazine called Girls and Corpses for 10 years until it stopped. What?
I know that magazine. I know.
Yeah, it was great, but it went out of publication. But I wrote for it for 10 years. I wrote about like morbid things. Like one article I wrote was different diseases that you can have in your penis.
What? Okay.
One was like bizarre sexual, like paraphilias and fetishes, and that was the type of article I wrote for Girls and Corpses.
That's gnarly. That's crazy though. But like we talked about it in the beginning, like, well, I'll put it this way. Like you said that you are into morbid stuff and it sounds like your head can go into a dark place, but it's not just that. Like, people get a misconception about that. They'll be like, oh, he thinks that way. So does he do stuff like that? And I used to get stuff like that. I used to hear that all the time about the different authors I would interview. And it's like, no, I don't think so. I think it's a creative outlet, and it's stuff that they're kind of into, but like they're into it like in a creative way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I have a normal life. I mean, I've been married over 2 decades. I have a 10-year-old son. He turned 10 yesterday, actually. And for a long time I had a regular job. So yeah, I'm not gonna like act out on these things that I'm interested in. I'm just interested in them, just because I'm interested in human nature.
Right.
Um,
Right.
but it doesn't mean that I actually would like want to do that, or would celebrate that type of behavior. Like, I write about serial killers, but I don't, I'm not like for serial killers. Like someone once asked me, "Who's your favorite serial killer?" And I said, "I don't have favorite serial killers. They're horrible beings. I can tell you who I think the most interesting serial killer is, but I don't have a favorite serial killer. None of them are my favorites."
Yeah. So
So
you're not gonna have you're not gonna have a shrine in your house for I don't know, like the BTK killer or anyone really for that matter.
yeah, that's right.
Which makes sense. That would be awkward if you did. Like if I said I have a shrine in my house for you know Jeffrey Dahmer, that would be like, what? What's going on there? But no.
Yeah, I have kind of like a Rob Zombie shrine.
Well, yeah, that's understandable. Understandable. Yeah, and people get that misconception quite a bit, but I think they like there's a lot of podcasts, especially podcasts that talk about true crime and serial killers, and they go very deep into it, And a lot of those hosts, I mean, they're just covering it because they find it fascinating,
Yeah, definitely. That's the same with that's the same with me. I also should point out, not all the stories in my book are horror stories. Some of them are humorous stories.
Oh, okay.
Or they're like sort of a borderline between comedy and horror. But I do have a lot of humor elements in some of the stories.
Well, I can imagine so, because even when you mentioned your articles you wrote for Girls and Corpses, I can imagine those articles were meant to be humorous in a way, right? Kind of shock you and be kind of funny at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they're meant to be funny more than anything else.
You're talking about disgusting diseases for your penis. That's shocking fucking humor there, man. That's like, and there's some rock stars that probably had those conditions.
Yeah, I feel bad for them, but yeah.
Yeah, like Lemmy, he probably had those conditions.
Right.
Rest in peace. But yeah, yeah. Okay, so tell us a little bit about one of your more funnier stories.
Let me actually grab my book here and take a look.
Okay.
One of my funnier stories. I have this straight out bizarro story called Little Jimmy Wanted a Baseball. And
Okay.
again, the story that I wrote a long time ago, and a lot of people liked it. That was like my most liked story. And it's about this kid, and he's got a levitating pet. And all he wants is a baseball to show off to his father, who's like a scumbag. And he goes to school, and the school is I think like 3,000 stories, and he's enemies with the gym teacher. He takes the gym teacher to the top, and he squirts LSD at him, and then he tells him that he could fly, and he jumps off the building, and that's the end of him. And then there's some other stuff goes on, and then there's nuclear war, and everyone in the whole world dies except for one person. I forget the guy's name, but he's that motivational speaker, and he's got really big hands.
Okay.
So he's the sole survivor of a nuclear war.
That's Jimmy Wants a Baseball?
Little Jimmy Wants a Baseball. Yeah.
Little Jimmy Wants a Baseball. So we go from Little Jimmy Wants a Baseball to like there's like what? Wait, he jumps off of a roof.
He gets his gym teacher to jump off the roof of the school.
Okay, gotcha. Okay. Crazy, man. I like that.
Yeah, and the gym teacher's all fucked up, and he totally hates kids and everything. It's funny.
I gotta check out that book. I gotta check out the story here. And so in this book that you have here with all these stories, I have a lot of stories here, is of course available on Amazon, which you guys could definitely check out there. And it's pretty cheap, $2.99, available on Kindle and all that, right?
Yeah, it's on Kindle Unlimited for free also.
Oh yeah, okay, all right, and we talked about what your horror story, your kind of a funnier one. Let me ask you, like, now you mentioned contains hurting my toys first. Is that your favorite story in this book, or?
Yeah, it's one of mine. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, because it seems like that's what we first got into, and boy, was that a gnarly line. Using the baby as a crack pipe. Man, that is some dark stuff, but it's twisted. It's funny. It's messed up, but it's hey, but I like it. I like how you went there. And on the topic of that, very quickly, like, do you get any sort of issues? Do you run into any issues with like Amazon, or will people like any feedback when they read the story like that?
Yeah. I submitted a story called "What Did You Do to the Children?" And it's a revenge story.
Is it like a Jeffrey Epstein story, or what did you do to the children?
What?
Is it a Jeffrey Epstein story?
No, it's just this guy kidnaps and kills these kids, and the mother sees them and tracks them down and stalks them for years so that she can get revenge on him.
Oh, okay.
And Amazon would not publish it, so I made some changes to it. Did not publish it. The second time, I changed the name of the story from "What Did You Do to the Children" to just "What Did You Do?" And I took out one scene, which I thought was probably excessive, and was probably the reason why they weren't going to publish it. And they did go ahead and publish it.
Yeah.
So that's the only problem I've had.
Yeah. I can imagine issues like that. I mean, and after making that sort of change, did it hurt any of the sales, or did it hurt any of the sales for the book?
No, it was just a short story, and it hasn't really sold that many copies. But
Okay.
my short stories don't really sell that well. So
Yeah, but it sounds like you do get some comments and feedback from the readers who do check it out.
yeah, I mean, a lot of people are ecstatic, and they love
Okay.
it, and then some people hate it.
Well, yeah. And what I'm looking at here is a collection of short stories. So, like, when you get something like that, like an anthology, you're not gonna like every story. You might like some more than others. There's gonna be probably one, maybe two that you're like, that one I don't really care much for. It's kind of like it's like, not to do a whole Forrest Gump thing, but it's like a box of chocolates. It's kind of like yeah, you're gonna get a collection of things. Some might really appeal to you, some not so much. Yeah, is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, it definitely, especially it's not just horror. It's like bizarre horror. A lot of it. So if that's what you like to read, then you should try the book out.
All right. So David L Tamarin, you are the first guest for this React and Chill podcast thing, where I have a guest. We talk about what you do. We talk about some topics that are kind of interesting to you and I, right? And then we there's some reactions. So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing this. And hey, you're the guinea pig of the whole thing.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. It was great being a guinea pig.
Oh yeah, it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed this quite a bit. We covered a lot, and some things probably. I'm curious what the comments say. I really am. So we'll see. We'll see with that. And hey, I like everything we talked about. I thought it was cool. I thought it was entertaining. Some of it was shocking. But hey, I know what I'm getting into when I talk to horror authors, because especially extreme horror. Oh man, it's like, yeah, it's like, oh, if I ask you what is your favorite extreme horror movie, like what would you say?
Oh, favorite extreme horror movie. That's tough. But Human Centipede Part 2.
Okay, so yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. So with everything we talked about here tonight, yeah, I don't think I've seen part 2. I saw part 1. I saw part 1. I was like, you know what? I'm good, man. I don't know if I need to see part 2. I don't know if I need to.
Part 1 is like tame compared to Part 2. Part 2 is insane. I mean, it's crazy.
Oh man, I don't know if we're gonna get a Love Bite song about that. You might get the Warning song about it, maybe. No, I'm joking about that. Just kind of like putting it all together here. All right, but anyway, you guys, thanks for watching this. If you made it this far, let me know in the comments section. All right, yeah.